Hello friend, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Becky if you're new, and today we are going to be making something I've always wanted to attempt, and that is a gingerbread house from scratch. We're gonna make the gingerbread house and we are gonna decorate it from start to finish, and I'm really excited to attempt this project. This seems a little intimidating to me, and we're just gonna see if we can do it together. So I did some research online and I found a recipe that I think is gonna go really well. And I will link this down below. When I was looking for a recipe, I specifically looked for something that had a printable cutout sheet. And this recipe, you can either make a 7-inch house or a 5-inch house. There's a printable for both. And so we're just going to go with that because I did not want to have to attempt to try to make the dough and make a gingerbread house and have to come up with a template of the actual house itself. So to start, we need to make the dough, and this is a pretty straightforward recipe. In this mixer, I've got 1 cup of butter, and we are gonna add to that 1 cup of brown sugar. And we're gonna cream the butter and brown sugar together. Now we're gonna add 1 egg. So we're gonna make this gingerbread house cookie dough just like you would any cookie dough, really. I'm gonna scrape the sides so that can get all incorporated. This recipe does not give weights for the flour, and so I'm gonna go ahead and just measure it out with cups. It calls for 5 cups of all-purpose flour, and we're supposed to mix all of this together in a bowl before we add it to our wet ingredients. Now that I've mixed the flour, I can go ahead and measure out. I wanted to use the same measure for our molasses. So what I'm gonna do, open that. I'm just gonna put a little bit of avocado spray in my 1 cup measure, and we need to measure out 1 entire cup of molasses. And just so that the molasses comes out of this measuring spoon a little bit easier, let's see. If I can put that here. I kind of want to, we'll see if we get to it. I kind of want to make some just ginger cookies that are enjoyable to eat. I kind of think of a gingerbread house as more of a decoration, and look how beautiful and easily that molasses just slides right out of that measuring spoon. Okay, so we're gonna mix that together, and while this is mixing, I'm going to go ahead and measure out all of the spices. There's a lot of spices that go into this recipe. First, I've got some nutmeg. Next, we're gonna add cinnamon. And of course, a lot of ginger, because it's a gingerbread house. I think this is allspice. I don't have any clove, because there's supposed to be clove in this. We're gonna mix this together. And then the last, well, no, we gotta add salt. I almost forgot salt. And we're gonna add baking soda. I'm gonna sift that just so that there's no lumps in there. And then we're gonna add salt. Stir all this together. We're supposed to add the flour mixture 1 cup at a time. Or at least just not all at once. It doesn't have to be exact, I don't think. So we'll just start with 1 scoop. Actually, I probably don't need to lock it because I'm going to be opening this up. And this is going to be a dry dough, the recipe states. So I scraped down the sides of the bowl a couple times, and now our dough is nice and incorporated. So we need to let this chill for a couple hours. But what we're gonna do to let this chill for a couple hours first is we're gonna get it out on a little bit of parchment paper. And divide this in 2. Doesn't have to be exact. We're gonna shape this into a rectangle. Now we have our gingerbread dough done. I'm gonna pop these into the refrigerator to cool. That wasn't so difficult. I don't think this is the difficult part. The difficult part is rolling them out, baking them, and assembling them. I've always been a little intimidated to do this, so I'm excited to see if we can do it together. While that's chilling, let's make some chewy ginger cookies. I don't know about you, but I've never really loved eating the gingerbread houses whenever I've decorated them. My plan today, I did buy a little gingerbread man because I want to make some gingerbread men as well. But I figured I should go ahead and get these chewy spiced ginger cookies made with some chocolate chips because I know we absolutely love these. And so since I have to wait for that dough to chill, might as well get some yummy cookies in the oven in the meantime, and then we can decorate our gingerbread house. So for this recipe, it basically calls for all the same ingredients, just a different ratio. We have 3/4 cup of brown sugar in our bowl, and now I'm gonna get 3/4 cup of white sugar. And so I didn't clean out this bowl or anything just because we're gonna be using basically all the same ingredients. No need to. I did go ahead and get my oven preheated to 350. We're gonna cream this together. And I am gonna weigh out my flour. I really like it now when I can weigh my flour out. So I've got my scale here. I'm gonna set it to 0. And get my egg in here. And my vanilla. That actually slid out better because this is what I used to measure out the sugar. So I think the sugar and then the oil was perfect for that. Okay, so this is mixed together well enough. And I'm gonna go ahead and take my whole bowl off. I'm gonna stick my whole bowl on the scale. We're gonna set it to 0. I'm gonna weigh out 350 grams of flour. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and just add the rest of the ingredients in here while I'm at it. This is not in the recipe, but Josh and I love chocolate chips in our ginger cookies. And I just have some mini chocolate chips that I'm gonna add today. And I did not scrape down the sides earlier when we were doing this, so I'm gonna do that real quick. And that's our cookie. All the gingerbread cookie dough is done. The cookies we're gonna have to enjoy to eat, plus what we're gonna snack on. I did go ahead and throw my gingerbread dough in the freezer so it can cool a little bit quicker. So what I'm gonna do now is clean off this island and get this completely clean so we can move on to the next phase as soon as our dough is chilled, and we can, as soon as our where's the lid to this? We'll have to find that. And then we can cut out our gingerbread houses. I'm excited about cutting out the gingerbread houses. I'm a little nervous, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. It feels a little intimidating. We don't need to measure out anything else. So all of this bakeware can just go straight into the dishwasher. Salt goes over here. It smells incredible in here. I found my lid. I knew I would. The lady's blog that I found this recipe on and how she does it, she does a ton of gingerbread houses at one time. She pre-measures out all her dry ingredients and does like an assembly line when she's making the dough. And I just want to try once, but I think it would be fun to host a gingerbread decorating party. I've done gingerbread decorating parties before, but it's always been when we've used like graham crackers, or even last year at Christmas, my mom, she made little gingerbread houses out of Pop-Tarts. So this is the first time I've ever decorated, or this is the first, yeah, it will be the first time I'm ever going to decorate a gingerbread house that's actually made out of gingerbread, not some other like graham cracker or a store-bought gingerbread, I should say. I'm pretty sure I've decorated a gingerbread house from one of those kits you can buy, but traditionally we've always done with graham crackers. Kitchen is cleaned back up. So now what we can do is actually cut out our templates and get prepared to roll out our dough. So I thought, you know what, before I do that, I've got my cookie dough here. I think these cookies, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna freeze this ginger cookie dough just like this. And then when we need a ginger cookie, I can just pull some of these out and we can bake these from frozen. Our cookies in the oven are almost done. And then we can prepare to roll out our gingerbread houses. I think these are done. I'm gonna give them one more minute. We are gonna call these done. We like a really soft cookie, and I'm gonna pound these on the counter. And we're gonna let them finish baking on this baking sheet. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these in the freezer just to flash freeze, and then I'll put them in a Ziploc bag. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just push them down just a little bit before they're frozen. And we'll get these in the freezer. And then what I have here is we get to cut out our houses. Now, this recipe that I found has two templates. There is the 5-inch house, which all the pieces are on one sheet, or there is the 7-inch house, and the pieces are on two different sheets. This is the 5-inch, and this house does come with a chimney, which is a little intimidating, but I think we can do it. I'm thinking I want to do the 7-inch house, and the recipe does state that this recipe can make 2 7-inch houses. And then I also did go ahead and purchase this little gingerbread man, because if we have any extra, I want to attempt to make some gingerbread men. I was just thinking that making a gingerbread house feels like the perfect matchup of crafting and baking, and probably a little bit of engineering as well. So I'm going to cut all these out, and it does say that we need 2 of this size, 2 of this size. I think we need 2 of everything. And so we're going to cut out our pieces. Now, the lady who I found this blog on, she, like I mentioned, does a ton of these at one time. So what would be good if you were going to, make a ton of them to have a party and make a bunch of houses at once for, a bunch of different people to decorate, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to cut some templates out of maybe some cardstock or cardboard or something like that. I just have printer paper here, but I'm not making a ton of them, so I think that we'll be okay. Our templates will last long as we need them. But if you were going to do a ton of them, probably copy paper would not be quite what you want. My goal is to only get 1 house, but I think I want to try to cut out enough for 2, in case we have breakage. Okay, we now have all of our pieces. We have our front and back, our side, our roof, and our chimney pieces. So there's that. Let's get this open and see what this looks like. I just ordered this offline. Oh, cute. Okay, so quite a few different sizes here. I went with these ones because they have this little rubber coating, so I thought it'd be more comfortable. So how cute are those? Okay, perfect. We've got all we need. Now we can roll out our gingerbread. The recipe states we need to roll out our dough to 1/4 inch thick. I have this rolling pin that has these guides, and they come with different size rings you can put on the ends, and I just grabbed my 1/4 inch rings. And I think for making gingerbread houses, this is gonna be super important to have, instead of me guesstimating and not having it completely even. This way I know that the gingerbread, all of it is gonna be the exact same thickness. So I've got that ready. I can link this down below. This comes in handy. I don't use it unless I'm doing something specific like this where I really want a lot of precision. Now I'm creating a space here where I can get my silicone mat out. Now we're gonna roll this out between 2 pieces of parchment paper. I read a bunch of different recipes. Not all of them said to do that, but quite a few of them did say that your best friend when it comes to rolling out gingerbread is parchment, so we're gonna do that. And I think our dough should be good. Oh, uh-oh. I just broke that in half. Okay. Hopefully that's not a problem, but I'm gonna put that one back in the fridge and we'll come to that one later. So here we've got our dough that's been chilling for quite some time now. It's pretty firm. This is the part that intimidates me. Well, assembling it is going to be a little intimidating too, I think, but we'll be able to do this. Okay, so I've got my piece of dough here. And I'm just going to start rolling it out. Okay, because this dough is so cold, I am up on my tiptoes to get leverage. Okay, I'm picking up my parchment so that I'm not getting a bunch of wrinkles in it. I can't roll it this way anymore. Shoot, I should have had it a little bit thicker. Let's check our, okay. So those do fit on there. See how there's a wrinkle in that? Okay, I'm not quite touching the counter yet with my rolling pin. We're getting pretty close though. To be honest, it's kind of hard to tell with my silicone mat, so I think I'm gonna move this for just a minute. Maybe I don't need that since I'm using the parchment. Okay, I am officially touching. Okay, it is completely a 1/4 inch thick everywhere. I want to smooth it out. No wrinkles on that side. Turn it over. No wrinkles on this side. I'm going to go ahead and smooth it one more time. Yep, so you can see it just glides across. Perfect. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, we get to cut this out. So the nice thing, each one of these templates says that we need 2. So for one house, we need 2, 4, 6, 8, and I'm losing it. I've lost a piece. We need to make sure we have 10 pieces. So what we're gonna do, I think to make this so that I don't mess up, I'm going to make sure I get 2 of the same thing before we move on. I was intimidated to do this at first, but I'm going to show you a couple tricks that I figured out after doing this to make this very easy. Before we get into it though, I want to thank Nakano Knives for sponsoring today's video. They offer 3 tiers: the classic, which is made of stainless steel and paca wood for the handle; the Mito, which is what we're using today, which is made of stainless steel and natural olive wood for the handle; and their 19C27 series, which is made of high carbon steel with 45 layers of Damascus and chestnut wood for the handle. Nakano is a Japanese knife brand that has been in business since 1918, and they make all their knives in Japan. Chopping, slicing, dicing is so fundamental, and it can be kind of frustrating to be in the kitchen if you don't have a sharp knife. So if you need a knife, or if you know someone this Christmas who needs a knife, Nakano is offering a 30% off sale exclusively through my link, which I will put down in the description box, if you shop through that link and use the code ACREHomestead. This sale is not advertised on their main site. They wanted to offer you a 30% off sale from now until December 12th in case you need a sharp knife this Christmas. So thank you, Nakano, for sponsoring today's video. So here I cut out my first piece of the gingerbread house, and you're gonna see I end up picking up the house. And that works okay when the dough is super, super cold, but even just the few minutes this dough sits out, the butter is getting warmer just from the working of the dough and being in my kitchen and me touching it, that they get really soft. And so I end up picking up this second piece, and it ends up distorting it just a little bit. It probably would have been okay, but I end up recutting it, and I end up coming up with a better way of transferring the dough from the parchment paper on my counter to the parchment paper on the cookie sheet. And you'll see in just a minute how I end up coming up with a better way than picking it up, because you can see just that little bit of movement kind of distorts my cookie a little bit. So we have 2 of these now, and we could fit this one here, or we could do, let's do this one so we get less confused. There we go. Less distortion that way. I'm a little worried about this one. I think I'm going to redo it. It's kind of like the first pancake. The first one is the sacrificial piece, even though it was actually the second one that was my sacrificial. It's going to take a little bit of just trial and error and figuring out what works well. I need to get this dough back in the fridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this back in the fridge. I'm also going to stick this in the fridge. I'm going to pull out the one that I broke, which will be fine. And I'm just going to keep rolling and cutting out pieces until we have the makeup of one house. I think I'm going to stick this tiny piece back in the fridge because we're not using it. And we'll just keep rolling it out. I do think the key here is this rolling pin that is got the gauge on it. Okay, I can already tell I am, yep, on the counter. Okay. So I want to see if I can get one side piece and one roof out of this. Just double checking them. Yeah, we're good there. Okay, one roof. And that way we're good on these ones. One thing I found really nice about using the parchment is I wasn't incorporating a bunch of flour, and so I could re-roll this dough many times, and I noticed that it didn't affect the texture or anything like that. So if this is something like, for me, this is new to you, you can definitely do it. It was so much easier than I ever anticipated. I don't know why, but I don't know if it's because growing up we watched a ton of Food Network competitions and gingerbread competitions, and I always felt like making a gingerbread house was the hardest thing to do. And I am so surprised how kind of straightforward it was. And I think part of that was not incorporating a bunch of flour into the dough and being able to just roll it out between two pieces of parchment paper. Perfect. Into the fridge these go. I have my roof cut out and then my front and back cut out. I still need my chimney pieces and my side pieces. So I'm going to see if I can get some of that out of this small piece that broke off that last piece of dough. Let's see if I can get this wide enough for at least one side piece. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. There we go. I think we're going to be able to get one. Ah! Shoot. I might have to redo that a little bit. Oh, glad I didn't bake that with that on it. I was a little worried about the texture of the gingerbread when I would pull the template off and there was a little bit of texture. I was thinking that maybe when I baked the gingerbread that would show through on the final, and it doesn't. When these go into the oven, the tops smooth out and it doesn't become an issue at all. And I do think also not incorporating a bunch of flour, but keeping the dough as cold as you can and put it into the oven as cold as you can really helps it bake and not distort as much because the butter is cold. And so between uses, I was putting the cut out pieces into the fridge, and then I was also putting the dough that I was waiting to roll out that was also staying in the fridge as well. So here we now are cutting out the chimney pieces, and it did help not to distort once I had them cut, not to distort it by transferring it using the parchment paper like this.
this worked really, really well. It didn't matter so much with these tiny pieces, but with the big pieces, this was a big help for sure.
This is the last piece, and we officially have all of our pieces for one house done. Pull off the top. I'm gonna chill this for a good 10 minutes and then I'll bake our gingerbread house. Here we have the makings of one 7-inch house. We have 2 of the side pieces, the front and back, the roof, and our chimney pieces.
This dough I'm rolling out to make some gingerbread men now that we officially have one. Oh wait, no. I wanted to make at least one extra of each piece in case I broke it because I was so worried that I was gonna break a bunch of things.
Oh, I forgot. I wanted to make round for my gingerbread house to sit on. I didn't want it to sit on, I almost forgot that. Okay, so with this, before I start cutting out another house, I'm going to cut out just a large cookie, basically, for my house to sit on, instead of it sitting on like a foil wrapped cardboard box. I want my gingerbread house to sit on my cake pan, or cake stand, but I want it to be a little bit smaller, so I think that's gonna be a good size. I think the house, let's see, should fit on this. Let's double check to make sure the dimensions actually fit. A little small. Okay, that plate fits perfect. Okay, there we go. Perfect. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put my plate on my cookie dough. Hopefully that fits on this cookie plate. Cake plate. Okay, now I'm gonna keep cutting out house pieces. I have cooked these for about an extra 10 minutes than the recipe says, just because I don't feel like they were fully cooked. Now it's really hard to tell because they are dark. I think that's good. I don't want them doughy because I'm gonna be using them to build a house. I want them dry and crispy. So I think we're done now with this first round. So I do want to get these on a cooling rack. It did say get them on a cooling rack when you take them out of the oven. Let me reread that recipe real quick. Place cutout gingerbread templates on dough. Cut out each piece using a sharp knife. Carefully transfer the pieces of cookies onto a sheet using a spatula. You saw how we did that instead. Be careful not to misshapen them. Bake at 350 for 15 minutes until golden brown. Transfer into a cooling rack and cool completely. Okay, so we're gonna transfer these and let them cool. They're just starting to brown now on the outside, so I think that extra 10 minutes really was necessary. Now I have the base and the makings of a second house, just in case for breakage, in the oven, ready to go. All the gingerbread houses are now in the oven. This is the last of the dough. I did have to make an extra set of dough because I wasn't gonna have enough to do the base and then to get a little bit extra for gingerbread men. So here, it would cut it pretty close to get 2 of the 7-inch gingerbread houses using 1 recipe's worth of dough. I pre-rolled this out. Here's just the last of the dough because I wanted to make sure I was able to make a few gingerbread men because if our gingerbread house doesn't turn out, I think we'll at least be able to get a couple cute decorated gingerbread men. And now I need to decide what size I want to make them. Let's see. I think I like the medium size because these are going to be more for eating versus decorating. I'm not going to bake these as long. I'm baking the houses quite a bit longer than the recipe states so that they're nice and hard. And that could just be my oven. But these, I want them to be a little bit softer on the inside. Let's see if I can get one here.
I feel a little bit like I am on the Great British Bake Off, and I think that I've watched so many episodes of that and seen so many catastrophes. That's why I just have this feeling that breakage is just around the corner at any minute.
Just gonna roll these out again. And then as soon as I get these rolled out, we're gonna make our royal icing for our gingerbread houses and to decorate these little men. There's our little gingerbread men. I just reread the frosting recipe or the royal icing recipe, which is going to be the glue to hold this whole thing together. And we need the KitchenAid to make the frosting. So I just rinsed this out or washed it out. And this looks like it's pretty easy, except it needs to whip for quite some time. And that's why we're going to use the KitchenAid. So the first thing we're going to start with is powdered sugar. And we're going to do 6 cups of powdered sugar. I don't know if I quite have 6 cups in here, but I have more if I need it. That's 3. Yeah, I'm gonna need more. That's 4. I said 4. I've got some more right here. And I was rereading the recipe. I better count this out properly. 5. And 6. And the cookie part, or the gingerbread part of the gingerbread house, is supposed to cool for a few hours before you decorate it so that it fully hardens. So what I did is I went ahead and put my gingerbread into the freezer so that it would fully harden, and I just checked on it, and as soon as we're done with this royal icing, we should be able to go ahead and assemble our houses. Now, this is interesting. It calls for cream of tartar, which I had to find in my drawer. And how much cream of tartar? A half a teaspoon. This is a 1/4 teaspoon, so I need 2 of these. I wonder if that helps it set up better. And it says combine all the ingredients, whisk with the whisk attachment, and beat on high until stiff peaks form, 5 to 6 minutes. Cover the bowl with plastic wrap until ready to use. Okay, now we've got our eggs here, and we need 4 egg whites. One. Nope. Didn't break the yolk, which is good. 2, 3, and 4.
I think this here is the trick to making this icing work so incredibly well as the glue. In the past, when we have done this, all we do is mix the egg whites and powdered sugar together. I think whipping it really makes it a strong glue.
I think the way I'm going to decorate these houses is just with the royal icing. I'm going to work on my, what is that called? Okay, so this part goes on the inside. my piping skills. I'm not a master piper, but I want to get better at it. Okay, so I think I need to cut a piece of this off first. I always have to remember every time I set up piping bags how to do this. I just got this kit off Amazon. So I've got a hole, and then I'm gonna put my tip. I'm gonna use this larger hole. This is just a plain hole, and I'm gonna use this larger one, I think, for when I am actually assembling them. I'm a little nervous about actually getting these houses to set up. So I like to put my piping bag in a mason jar so it's easier to fill it. This also comes with reusable silicone bags that you can reuse, or piping bags, as well as these disposable ones. And then I'm gonna use my smallest hole piping tip because I'm gonna use that to actually do the decoration on the house. Get that on there. So it's a 3-piece like that. Put that in there. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is transfer our royal icing into these bags. All right, we have all the components together, so now we are going to see if we can actually assemble one of these houses. All right, so the moment of truth. Does this piece fit on our, yes, our cake plate? So now we can assemble. I think before we do anything, we need to secure our base with some royal icing so that that does not go anywhere. All right, that's cute. I like that. Now we need to assemble our house. We have all of our components here ready to go. I'm a little nervous. So what should we do first? Should we, I think I want to set it back a little bit so that I have a little bit of area to decorate in the front. That looks even there. Am I supposed to glue the bottom and sides to the base? I guess I probably should. So I think what I'm going to do is come in from this angle. So we still have just our 2 sides on there. I think I'm just going to do a little zoopity zoop like that. The consistency of this royal icing is amazing. I have used royal icing before, but I've never whipped it. I've just done, mixed the egg whites together. And I think whipping it really is key. And that cream of tartar might actually have something to do with it too. Okay, so I'm just getting the excess, and that's gonna help push that in there. So now should we do the back side? So I'm just gonna do the same thing I did before where I went that. I'm gonna get all the excess up. This is not going too terribly difficult. So I have this pretty far to the edge, about as far back as I could. I think I'm gonna put more down here to secure it. Okay, we have 3 sides done. Okay. I put it pretty close to this edge. I didn't really realize that. Shoot. Can we shift it over just a little bit without destroying what we've done? Okay, that's better. Okay, what that means is I need to reinforce it now. Okay, we're just gonna go back in just like we did before. Doesn't matter what the inside looks like because it's gonna be covered with the roof. Reinforce this side here. Reinforce this side. I'm not reinforcing it on the outside because that's the side we're going to be able to see. And so I don't care what the inside looks like. Is that even now? See, what I was trying to do was have it be even on the cookie this way, which that looks pretty good there. Oh no, friend. Oh no. We just used the roof instead. No, okay. That was the roof pieces, not the side pieces. Darn it. Okay, I'm gonna clean this up and I'll meet you back when we're at the same spot where we just were with the 3 pieces. Crisis averted, I now have the correct side on my gingerbread house. And the reason why that's important is because the sides are skinnier than the roof because the roof has a little bit of overhang. And so I couldn't use these side pieces for the roof because they wouldn't fit. It wouldn't cover the entire thing. So we do have a little bit of mess here, but when we decorate it, we can cover that up. So I'm not really worried about that. That's not the right one. So now we can go ahead and get the 4th side on. I did go ahead and take out of the oven the gingerbread men. So that way, those, as soon as we're done with getting this built, we can decorate the gingerbread men. And then we can decorate this house because we kind of want it to set before we actually go to decorate it. Okay, we officially have all 4 sides on there. Another thing to note that I just realized, you've got your front pieces here, and then you have your side pieces here, like your front and back. Well, you want to make sure that you either have this side piece on the outside of the front and back or on the inside. So what I had done is on a couple of them, one of them I had these middle pieces, I had it on the inside on one side, on the outside on another. So here I now have made sure that my inside pieces are on the inside of both the front and back. I hope that makes sense. I kind of had to take it apart for the 3rd time, but that's okay. We're figuring this out together. I've never, ever, ever done this. So I'm reinforcing the inside here. And we'll obviously clean all these sides up when we go to decorate it. If I had realized a couple of these things early on, it would look neater from the get-go, but a little bit of frosting can cover up a multitude of sins. Okay, so now we need to put the roof on and the chimney. And I have to, so I think what I'm gonna do is make sure that I have this lower one underneath this peak so that this top one can go on top of it like that. Instead of trying to have them like this, I'll have one overlap just a little bit. I just had the thought that you could have a batch maybe of royal icing that has cocoa in it, so when you're doing this part, it wouldn't show all of your mistakes quite as much. I don't know if that would even work, but I just had that thought. I wonder if you could do that. And that's sticking really, really well. This royal icing is incredible. We're gonna do this side. I think I'm gonna do a little extra there because if that oozes out, no one's gonna see that. There we go. All right, I'm gonna let this set before we start decorating it. And I am gonna take the slightest of a damp rag and just clean up any of this royal icing ever so carefully before it completely dries. Just so that we have a little bit of a cleaner surface to decorate. That was relatively easy, dare I say. The biggest thing, if I had known going forward, is make sure you've got your tops and bottoms, sides all figured out before you get started. But I think that oh, we forgot the chimney. We gotta put the chimney on. But I am really, really, oh, good thing I didn't break it, happy with how, uh-oh, I think we needed, so this is my front, so that's a good thing. I wanna make sure I put my chimney, do I want my chimney in the front or do I want my chimney, maybe we'll put it right in the middle. Maybe we'll put it a little bit toward the front. There. I need to measure how wide this piece is. And I need to do the same thing. Do I want this on the inside here or do I want it on the outside? Let's see which looks better. I think I want it on the inside. Okay. Actually. Nope. For it to be level, I need it to be on the outside. So that goes right there. There we go. I just looked up, I'm gonna turn the oven light off. I just looked up decoration ideas for my house and for my little gingerbread men because I don't have any candies or anything to decorate them with. And I kind of like the look of just white and the gingerbread color. And I think I'm ready to start decorating these men. This right here is my inspiration picture, these little men right here. I don't have little gingerbread ladies. I think that would have been cute, but I didn't think to get those when I was ordering my cookie cutters. So this is definitely gonna be, did we nail it or did we fail it? What is it, nailed it or failed it? I'm not sure what or just nailed it. What the name of that show is. So I have my little piping, my littlest one here. We're gonna do 3 little buttons. And this little guy has a bow tie, so I probably should have done my first button a little bit lower. And we're gonna do 2 eyes and a little mouth. If that didn't turn out absolutely adorable, I don't know what did. So I'm gonna say I nailed that one. We're gonna keep going and see how it goes. I'm gonna put the dots a little bit lower because I've got the bow tie. How cute! How adorable are these little gingerbread men? Now, one thing to note, this icing I think is only meant for the actual construction of the houses because it is very, very thick and hard to work with. It acts like glue, which is what you want. So I think what I'm gonna do is actually thin this out just a little bit before we decorate our house. This might be a terrible idea, I don't know, but I think I just want it a little bit thinner before I actually decorate the house. We might sacrifice these 2 piping bags, but that's okay. I don't want to waste all this powdered sugar. I'm just going to put this back into our mixer. I'm trying to decide if I should use an egg white to thin it out a little bit or if I'm going to use a little bit of water. Maybe we'll use an egg white. We'll just stick with what we already have in here. Hopefully this isn't a terrible idea. Yeah, I'm already happier with that. Well, that's pretty runny. Maybe we'll whip it a little bit. I'm super happy with how this is looking. Oh my goodness, I just got that all over my phone. I whipped it for another about 2 minutes or so. I think it's a lot more malleable or spreadable or fluid, a lot more fluid. And so we're gonna be able to use it to decorate and pipe a little bit better. I do have my computer right here because I looked up a couple pictures for inspiration on how to decorate this gingerbread house. So I'm just gonna do the same thing I did before. I have 2 new piping bags. Get these filled, then we can get our house decorated. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot better consistency, I think. Not that I'm an expert gingerbread decorator. I have my 2 different piping sizes. I wanted more of the small size. Hopefully, nope, that's my large size. Put some more of that one in there. Wanted more of it in the small one here. So I just have my round tips, the same 2 tips I just used earlier. You know what would work better than this would be, oh yeah, I really am happy with the consistency of this. I might have to make some more, which would be okay. I need some for the ground, so I could just leave that in there. Okay, now we're ready to go. Okay, so I think what I should do is probably start decorating from the top down.
On my husband's side of the family, we love a little bit of competition. And I was thinking it would be so fun maybe next year to make up a bunch of gingerbread pieces and let people just build their own homes and have all the different kind of candy and do a contest at Christmas.
It does feel like it's looking a little bit worse before it's looking a little bit better, but we will get there. The pretend snow is what's gonna help cover all these seams where I was a little bit messy, but I think it's gonna end up looking super cute, hopefully. Clean up this edge here. I think I was a little heavy-handed on the chimney before. A little bit of a learning curve here. Because this is the front and I feel like I was a little heavy-handed, I'm just doing a little bit of surgery, removing a little bit of the excess. Now we need to make the front door and the windows.
One thing I just thought of, that I should have done, and so next time I do a gingerbread house, I will do this, is I am going to start decorating the back of the house, get the hang of it, and then decorate the front of the house. I take the frosting off the front side of this house so many times.
I think I need a little bit thicker frosting.
Because I just can't get it right. And by the time I'm completely done,
maybe not,
with the house, I've got the hang of the piping bag and the consistency I like for the royal icing. And so it definitely would have been a little bit better to start with the back of the house and then work on the front of the house. But it works out just fine in the end.
This is definitely a learning curve. I just made this ice. I erased my entire front door situation that I had there, and I just made quite a bit thicker of a frosting. And I think I'm gonna need this to have more control. I like that more fluid when I did kind of the snow effect and the roof. It probably actually would have been better if I had a little bit stiffer when I was doing the cross hatching. But I know for the windows and the doors, I'm gonna need to have a little bit more control over this icing. So I just made it a little bit thicker. So let's see, I'm just reusing this piping bag. I have to get the old stuff out, and I think that's the new stuff there. Okay, I'm gonna go wash my hands, and we're gonna do this again. See if I can do this without messing up. Part of my snow is melting off. Lovely. This is dripping too much too. Okay, a little bit of surgery here. We're gonna start over completely on this front half. I actually think I'm gonna need to do that over here too. Shoot, okay.
Basically, what this gingerbread building day turned out to be is that sometimes something can seem super intimidating and difficult, and you know, we put it off and we don't try because it seems hard, and then you get in there and try and realize, oh my goodness, it wasn't even that bad. I am shocked how relatively easy, dare I say, it was to make this gingerbread house. Now, it did take me some time to make it cute. I erased that front of the house probably 4 or 5 times, and I also messed with the consistency of the royal icing probably 3 or 4 times. I made it thinner, and then I was like, this is too thin, so I made it thicker and then thinner. So what I would say is just stick with the recipe. It is actually easier to work with if it's a little bit thicker, because what happens when it's a little bit thin is you don't quite have as much control over it, and over time it settles if it's too runny. And that's what the front of the house ended up looking like, and I'm so happy with it. And so if you need to erase something, you can just use a damp cloth and, well, first scrape away the frosting, and then use a damp cloth, very lightly damp, and go ahead and wipe it off and use it like an eraser. And then it's dried up just fine and it's worked out perfect. So my other thing is definitely start with the back and work your way toward the front. So after I got the sides decorated and the front and back decorated how I wanted, I ended up taking the rest of the royal icing and I made it like snow around the base. I did leave a little walkway just to make it look like someone had shoveled the walkway, and I am so excited with how this turned out, and I hope you try making a gingerbread house yourself because it was so fun. After I did this, I went and was talking to my sister-in-law, and she apparently is a gingerbread aficionado, and she was showing me some of the gingerbread mansions she's made in the past. And so I definitely think that we are going to start needing to incorporate gingerbread making into our family traditions from here on out. So I will link this recipe down below. I found it very easy to work with. The royal icing was incredible. And I just want to thank you, friend, for taking time out of your day to spend time with me in my kitchen as we tackled something I've never tackled before. And it was not as scary as I thought it was going to be. So one of the next things I want to try to tackle is making homemade croissants. So we'll see how well that goes. So friend, if you're new, please consider subscribing. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to watch more of my other videos, I will pop some other videos here you can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I hope you are having a wonderful holiday, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.